do not understand. I don't get it. I do not understand this massive surge of the child-free influencer that is popping up all over social media right now.
Oh boy, everyone, strap in. This one is a doozy.
These influencers whose entire platform centers around their child-free lifestyle and how great their freedom is and how bad kids suck.
Okay, let's take this point by point. You say that child-free creators are centering their child-free lifestyle on their profiles. But Becky, that's just their lives. It's literally the same as you posting about your day, but because you have a kid, your videos probably include a kid. And let's say that a child-free person posts a vlog. They show themselves driving to the farmer's market, they show themselves walking around the farmer's market, and if you didn't know that person was child-free, Becky, you'd just watch that video and be like, oh look, a lady buying tomatoes. She's supporting her local farmers, isn't she great? But God forbid that same woman post anywhere on her profile that she's child-free. Because then, despite the video being the exact same, she's not just some lady buying tomatoes now. She's a child-free influencer flaunting all of her tomato money. She's just bragging about how free her days are because she doesn't have kids. Nope, it's the same video of a lady buying tomatoes at a farmer's market. I'd also love the names of these child-free influencers who talk about how much kids suck or how having kids would suck, because it's certainly none of the child-free people that I follow. And I don't doubt that a handful of those people exist. There are assholes in every group of people. You support Trump, so I think you understand that, Becky. But I have no idea who these child-free creators are, and they're obviously not big enough for me to be like, oh yeah, Kelsey, she's really mean about kids in her videos. All the child-free creators that I follow, if they speak negatively about having kids, it's generally presented as, this is why I wouldn't like having kids. Like, personally, I do not have the patience to parent a toddler. And that's not me saying all toddlers suck because they don't know how to be punctual. It's a true observation of common toddler behavior and what I know about myself. If you'd like, Becky, I can produce a toddler and then make them sad by yelling at them in frustration when they get distracted for the 15th time, which seems more reasonable and less injurious to a child.
I don't understand, and they do not understand that they're choosing to forego one of the greatest gifts that life has to offer.
I don't know how to make people like this understand that people have different goals in life, and that that's okay. It also frustrates me that child-free people, and let's be honest, mostly child-free women, are so infantilized. To people like Becky, it's not that we made a measured decision, contemplated over many years, including tons of different factors. That's not what caused us to make our decision. It's just that we don't know that deep down, we truly do want kids. Kids are great. I love kids. But for me, being a parent would not be a gift. And being my child would not be a gift. And people love to say, oh, it's different when it's your own. But we know that's not true. First, because parents kill and abuse their children. Some parents exploit their children online. And you don't magically love parenting just because you have produced that child. That also doesn't mean you're good at it. Second, if I'm right and a kid would not be a gift to me, what do you think that kid's life would be like? Kids can tell if they're not wanted.
The gift of family.
I have a family. I've had one for the last 34 years.
The gift of having children, the gift of becoming a parent, the gift that is going to add new depths to the meaning of love.
Look, I'm willing to concede that having a kid gives you a different and very unique perspective. I do not doubt that at all. But the thing is, I don't care that I'm missing out. I don't think the Beckys of the world understand that this whole FOMO approach doesn't work on us because we do not care that we're missing out on this stuff. And again, this is the infantilization of child-free people. Like we're kids ourselves who need to be bribed into parenthood. Okay, you can choose not to have a kid, but you might miss out on all the fun. Look, your friend over there has a kid and she's having a good time. Don't you want to be like her? We are adults who have made an adult decision. But you know who will feel the impact of the FOMO you're trying to sell? Childless or child-free by circumstance people, who, if life had allowed them, would have loved to have a child or two. The Beckys love to hurl insults about how we're missing out and how we're underdeveloped as people. Infertile people can hear you when you say that. And if not having a kid makes you an incomplete person, that includes them too. And they're going to be hurt by that statement, not child-free people.
And they're just choosing to forego it for what? Some financial freedom? So you can take weekend trips whenever you want?
If you've ever been on the child-free subreddit, you know that the running joke is that everyone on there owns like 4 jet skis. And there are tons of dinks and sinks that do have a lavish lifestyle, and some of them love to show it off. But then you have regular people like me who are struggling to pay bills. Let's say Becky's video moves me so much that I decide to have a kid. That would just push me further down into poverty, which is hard to get yourself out of anyway, but doubly so if you have a tiny human that you have to take care of. Also, I live in America where it can cost upwards of $30,000 just to get the kid out of your body. So yeah, I guess I am partly choosing not to have kids because of the financial freedom, aka being able to afford food. But the irony of Becky complaining about these child-free influencers, whoever they are, showcasing their weekend getaways is, that's just what being an influencer is. Sharing the interesting and different parts of your life, not the dull, mundane parts. There's a reason there really aren't blogs being like, come to the office with me for the 14th day in a row. No one's going to watch a vlog of you getting to work, getting to your desk, making some coffee, talking to your coworkers, typing on your computer for 8 hours and going home. That's not interesting. What is interesting is a weekend that you get to take a trip, so that's most likely what you'll be showing people. It's what people want to see, and that is just the nature of influencing. And family vloggers, aka people with kids, do this too. Rarely will they just post a video about a normal day. Why would I want to watch their kids doing schoolwork for hours and then, like, eating dinner? It's usually videos of the family going on a trip, or like a craft day at home, or the day of the dance recital. That's why so many family vloggers, when their kid is hurt, they don't actually go and help their kid, they grab the camera. Because that's out of the norm, that's interesting. Child-free creators are doing the same things that family vloggers are doing, except we're not exploiting children when we do it.
That's fine for right now, but what happens when you get to the end of your life? Who's gonna be there? Who's gonna show up at your funeral? Nobody.
Why? Have you never heard of Friends? Do you not have any? One of my child-free idols, Marsha Drutt Davis, has been chronicling on her Instagram her experience in the last few weeks, maybe even months, of helping her friend through the dying process, basically. If we truly lived in Becky's world, Marsha would not be helping this friend. And the fact that Marsha is helping anyone at all flies in the face of the proclamation that child-free people are all selfish. Marsha could easily be like, I'm 81 years old myself. I'm too busy or tired or uncomfortable with this situation to spend time with my friend during it. But she isn't doing that. But she's not saying that. You know who does say that, though, when people are reaching the end of their life? People's kids. Watching your parent die is, of course, awful and traumatizing, and some people just can't face it. But you also seem to think that it's a guarantee that if you're a great parent, you maintain amazing relationships with your kids throughout their childhood and adulthood, that you will be surrounded by family when you die. But life happens. There are so many things that could keep your loved ones from being by your side on your deathbed. As I said, some people simply can't face it. Maybe your kids moved to another continent. Maybe there's a huge blizzard and they can't get to you. Maybe you don't have a deathbed, you die in a car crash. Maybe your kids die before you. Or maybe there's a worldwide pandemic. My maternal grandmother died in April of 2020. She did not die of COVID, but while she was in the hospital dying, the hospital was full of people with COVID. They let my mom and my aunt in to see her for very short periods of time. My grandparents had 3 kids. Only 2 of them were there because their youngest child, my uncle, died before both of his parents. None of you want to believe that you could be attending your child's funeral instead of the other way around, but it happens all the time. And since my grandmother died in the period of time that was peak COVID, all but 2 of her loved ones were not allowed to visit her. And do you know how many people that happened to during the pandemic? Even aside from the people who did not die from COVID, there were people, many of whom I'm sure were excellent and loving parents, who died without their family around them simply because of hospital restrictions. They did everything right, and they still died alone. That could happen to you too. Because shit happens, even if you're the most beloved parent in the world.
I think it is an incredibly sad trend that I'm seeing come out of my generation right now.
It's not a trend. It's just that people are talking about it more. And AFAB people in particular now have more of a choice as to whether we want to procreate or not. It's kind of like how people are like, autism is so prevalent today. People must be like misdiagnosed, or they blame it on vaccines. But it's not any of those things. It's just that we understand autism more. We know that it is a wide spectrum. And also the diagnosis is much less stigmatized than it used to be. So people are actually discussing their diagnoses rather than hoping no one figures it out. Likewise, being child-free or wanting to be child-free has never been rare. We can just make decisions about our own lives now. But also, we are still being told that we couldn't possibly not want kids. By people like Becky, obviously, who are around us in the world, but also by doctors. It took me 3 years to get sterilized because I kept getting turned down over and over. I had doctors literally tell me that I was not mature enough to make a decision about my own body in my late 20s, early 30s. But if I'd walked into their office with a pregnant belly, suddenly I would have been mature enough? Yet another tally under the category of infantilization. Why do we never hear people asking pregnant people, are you sure about this? You don't really know yourself until you're 35. I think you should wait. And wouldn't it be more logical to ask those questions of someone who's bringing a tiny helpless human into the world, not for people who aren't doing that?
I can't stand it. I absolutely cannot stand it. It makes me want to throw up every time I see people doing this.
Especially on TikTok, us child-free people get told, like, no one cares if you're not having kids. Just don't have kids and shut up. But if that's the case, why does our decision about our own lives that Becky does not have to live, make her want to throw up? Like, I don't understand why Becky's having such a dramatic, visceral response to something that will never affect her. I'd never seen any of Becky's content before this video, but from what I read in the comments, because a lot of people were unhappy about this video, she talks a lot about, like, minding your own business, but then she makes this video, which is the complete opposite of that. She apparently has a son she could be thinking about, but instead child-free people are living rent-free in her head. And for what? If we're so selfish and worthless without kids, stop thinking about us and ranting about us online.